This is the Kraken that was present in the Pirates of the Caribbean movie. It is one of the most mysterious creatures on Earth, whose existence has always been questioned. Some people may believe that the Kraken is an ancient animal lurking in the deep ocean that can destroy ships at any time. Evidence of the Kraken's existence was first immortalized in a book by Pierre Denis de Montfort that showed a giant octopus with huge tentacles attacking a ship. This story is taken directly from the stories of sailors from Norway in the 12th to 13th centuries who had seen sightings of this sea monster in the form of giant tentacles appearing on the surface of the water.
So animals coming from the dark, deep ocean had mass, and therefore they had power. How could you not fear something like that? That's the Kraken.
In this video, we will try to uncover together about the Kraken and how it first appeared so that it was considered a real creature, as well as the testimonies of eyewitnesses who took the time to wade through the world's vast oceans. We agree that humans actually know less about Earth's oceans than we do about the solar system. At least more than 80% of the world's oceans are rumored to remain unexplored. The plethora of unidentified marine species sparks our imagination of what might lie beneath the surface of these dark waters. One such creature is none other than the Kraken, which is said to inhabit the deep ocean. The story of the Kraken as a giant sea creature was first written by King Sverre of Norway in 1180. At the time, King Sverre warned sailors to beware of the huge squid-like monsters that swam along the Norwegian coast, Greenland, and Iceland. This rumor apparently continued until the 15th century, as we can see on a map of Scandinavia called Carta Marina. In this map, if we look at each other, we will see illustrations of people and animals adorning the entire map. On the land part, we can see various animals such as reindeer, bears, wolves, and even armored knights riding horses. While in the sea, there are animals such as lobsters, crabs, whales, and others with quite strange shapes. This oddity seems to be based on the direct experience of the map maker, Olaus Magnus. He is a famous historian and naturalist from Sweden. One of his important works is a book entitled The History of the People of the Northern Regions. In this book, Olaus Magnus mentions a terrible monster off the coast of Norway. He described the creature as black in color like a whale and shaped like a floating fallen tree. Its head was surrounded by tentacles pointing in all directions and large eyeballs. Stories of Kraken sightings continued in the 18th century when a French naturalist, Pierre Denis de Montfort, wrote about the Kraken in his 1802 book. In his report, de Montfort reported a story of a large merchant ship being attacked by a giant sea creature called the Pulpi, or Great Octopus. As the ship prepared to set sail from the Atlantic coast of Angola, this giant creature emerged from the sea. Capturing the ship with its tentacles, it wrapped its arms around the ship's masts and began to raise its body onto the ship. This attack caused the ship to almost sink as it tilted to one side. The crew fought desperately by trying to cut off the creature's tentacles with knives, swords, and axes, which led to success. After this event, the story of the Kraken's existence became famous and was even immortalized in paintings like the ones we see today. This evidence may be looming over the head of a scientist named Johannes Japetus Smith Steenstrup. He was a Danish scientist who was a renowned naturalist and author of hundreds of scientific articles in various fields, including archaeology and zoology. However, his name is best known for his efforts in proving the existence of a giant squid that was once thought to be a mythological baleen called the Kraken. Although many of his contemporaries considered the Kraken to be a myth, but his perseverance finally paid off in 1854, when Steenstrup managed to prove to the scientific world that the Kraken briefly existed. At a meeting of the Danish Natural History Society in 1854, Japetus Steenstrup presented evidence to support the existence of the giant squid. Here, he shared valuable information in the form of a collection of reports of giant squid-like creatures found washed up on Scandinavian shores in the 1600s and 1700s. These reports convinced many in the scientific community that giant squid did exist. Since then, the animal was then given an official scientific name in 1856 from originally Kraken to Architeuthis, given by Japetus Steenstrup. The name Architeuthis itself is taken from the Greek, which means chief squid. 5 years after the scientific naming of the squid, in 1861, the French warship Alecton found a kraken floating in the Canary Islands, a few hundred miles off the west coast of Morocco. The crew killed the squid, tied it with a rope near its tail fin, and tried to pull it on board. However, because the animal was too large, the rope cut into its flesh and only the tip of its tail and fins were saved. It wasn't until the 1870s that dead or dying kraken carcasses began appearing in the western Atlantic around the coast of Newfoundland, Canada. No one knows for sure what caused these strandings, but some scientists suspect that changes in the Labrador Current, a deep current of cold water that flows along Canada's east coast, may be to blame. It wasn't until the 1890s that the first expeditions in search of the kraken began. Smithsonian theatologist Clyde Roper and several colleagues undertook a series of expeditions to search for the kraken off the coast of New Zealand. One of the efforts made was to observe sperm whales as they caught and ate giant squid. To do this, the expedition team deployed underwater cameras to the sperm whale feeding area where the kraken was thought to be. Roper even attached critter cams to the sides of some of the whales in the hope of recording them hunting the giant squid. However, along the way, not a single giant squid was recorded. This failure is apparently not the end of proving the existence of the kraken or giant squid. Another theatologist, Steve O'Shea, tried a different approach to understanding giant squid, namely by basing them in captivity.
So what we're trying to do is to capture the juveniles and then on-grow them, feed them as much food as we can, and determine exactly how long they are, exactly what is their growth rate. Try to reconstruct the life cycle of this giant squid.
O'Shea managed to capture some tiny baby giant squid, known as paralarvae, in the hope of basing them to adult size. However, just like the Roper's efforts, his efforts also ended in failure, as the larvae were found to be unable to adapt to captivity and only survived for a short period of time. Nonetheless, the publicity surrounding these researchers' search for the kraken was very successful in attracting kraken enthusiasts around the world. This culminated in 2004 with the real evidence of the kraken or giant squid living in the world's oceans. In 2004, two Japanese researchers, Tsunemi Kubodera and Kyoichi Mori, managed to do something that had never been achieved by any previous researchers. They managed to photograph a giant squid while it was hunting hundreds of meters below the surface of the Pacific Ocean. This was no accidental experiment, but a carefully planned project. First, they analyzed several years' worth of data from observations of sperm whale distribution in Japanese waters held by the Whale Watching Association, from which Kubodera and Mori found that sperm whales congregate annually from September to December near a deep-sea canyon around Chiejima waters, a few hundred miles southeast of Japan. They also learned from other researchers that these whales dive into the canyon to hunt squid at depths of 400 to 1,000 meters. So Kubodera and Mori placed their equipment in the exact location where sperm whales catch giant squid. They lowered a steel nylon rope with marker buoys to a depth of 900 meters, at the end of which they attached bait in the form of a leaky bag filled with crushed shrimp and 2 hooks baited with small squid. An underwater digital camera and flash were placed a few meters above the hooks, set to take pictures every 30 seconds once they reached the desired depth. On the morning of September 30th, a giant squid attacked one of the squid baits. After trying to break free and pulling on the hook for over 4 hours, the giant squid finally managed to escape, but left behind a 5.5-meter-long tentacle still hanging on the hook. 2 years later, in 2006, Kubadera managed to video capture an aggressive giant squid of 7.3 meters with the same technique as before. A giant squid can grow up to 13.1 meters in length, while its relative, the colossal squid, is categorized as the world's largest invertebrate, reaching up to 15 meters in length. An example was in 2007, when a fisherman managed to catch a colossal squid weighing up to 495 kilograms in the Antarctic Ocean, and sightings of this creature suspected to be a kraken were increasingly evident in the following years, such as in 2012, which was very famous.
Move down. Oh, that's great. Move down.
And the latest is in 2023, like the following video. That's why, from this long enough explanation, it can be concluded that the Kraken mystery is most likely based on a species of cephalopod called Architeuthis or giant squid, although its size is not like the monster imagined by most people. That's a short video of the Kraken mystery. If you have anything to add, please comment. Thank you.